Hi, everybody. I'm David Bloom with Next TMT. I'm here with Lucas Bertrand, the CEO of Looper Insights, a really interesting analytics firm that is doing some fascinating stuff, helping all the streamers and big media companies figure out a really complicated, important set of questions about where their stuff is on display on media platforms across 25 countries. Well, let's talk a little bit to start, Lucas. Thanks for joining us. Happy to have you here. And we hope to have you back multiple times in coming months to talk more about some of the research you guys get into along the way because you gather a lot of data. But this first conversation, I think, will really be focused a little bit on kind of who you are and the problems you all solve for companies like Disney and Tubi and Hulu and Amazon Prime and NBC Universal, et cetera. It's a nice, long, impressive list, I must say. But what is that problem that has exploded in the era of streaming?
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for having me. Really appreciate it. As you mentioned in the intro there, it started off where is my stuff? It's a merchandising problem that we're really focused on. And in fact, Looper Insights came out of a digital distribution business that we had built, which was distributing products onto all of these initially web stores like iTunes and Google and Amazon, and then onto connected TV environments. And one of the hardest things that we found was that it was really hard to understand where all the products were that were being distributed across multiple territories and devices and platforms. And that was really the kind of kernel of the business, was helping clients understand where's my stuff.
This is a little bit like, I mean, this is a real throwback, but you may be almost old enough to remember it. Back in the day, Blockbuster had thousands of videos and then they have an end cap, right? And back then, your job would have been deciding or making sure that my studio's stuff is on that end cap being shown off. This is effectively that, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And that's the analogy I use to help friends, family, investors understand what it is that we do. Is it's really merchandising. And if you think of the old school or retail, physical retail, it's helping clients understand, if I'm distributing lots of titles into a physical retail environment, where is my product on the shelf? How much shelf space have I got? Does the product stand off the shelf? Does the packaging actually stand out? If it's priced, if it's transactional, what are the prices for my products versus my competitors? And if the company that was doing this, taking photos of all the shelf space, was any good, they'd then help you understand the value of the shelf space. Being able to then connect it through to revenue, through to viewership, through to engagement is really the end game here.
Yeah, that seems to be both very complicated and really important at a time when you've got thousands of your titles available across. I think you guys have something like 800 different, 600 online video stores in 120 countries. That's crazy. 250 types of connected TV devices in 25 countries. That's a lot of storefronts to keep track of, but probably an excuse to go travel sometimes, but still a formidable challenge just to keep track of that. And so for a company that has thousands of titles, I guess it's going to be, what movie do we want, to make a very simple example, do we want Roku to spotlight for a set of specific audiences that we've targeted for this movie? Is that kind of where we're getting down to the granularity of what you can do?
Yeah, that's right. And you've got the priority titles, right? So these are my new release titles. These are my big catalog titles that we want to ensure that the widest audience is going to be able to see and get promoted. And so you need to look at a few things. So I want to make sure that my paid campaigns actually are there. That's obviously really important. I would like to understand what share of voice am I getting. So if I've got a top feature rotator and there's four spots that are rotating, how many of those do I have? Do I have one? Do I have two? All of them? That's really important. Then I want to understand, okay, well, if I'm doing that paid promotion, am I also getting earned media promotion? Am I getting some free promotion editorially or algorithmically. And so what we have as a hardware software solution, we've got a couple data centers out near Heathrow in the UK, and we've got 33 labs around the world that enable us to get all the local data from these local devices. So out in the data centers, we've got racks of devices like your Samsung 2024 models, all VPN'd into the 25 countries. We've also got these local labs where we can get the local MVPD data, like your Xfinity or your Cox or your Charter or Verizon, whatever those local MVPDs are. And then we bring that into our cloud-based platform. And we're essentially going through the UIs and capturing all of the UI using screen grabs in its basic form. And then we use image and text recognition. These are AIs. We've been using them for 7 years now, constantly developing to help us automatically recognize what it is that we're looking at on the shelf, who it belongs to, and how much of that shelf space are they getting. And then what we're able to do is we then put some metrics around it. And that's really a key development that Loop has been working on over the last couple of years with some of our key clients is, okay, it's great to know how much shelf space I've got, but tell me if it's the good shelf space. And so that's where we've launched our metric called media placement value. And it's a weighted share of voice.
Right. So, and you all are trying to make this essentially a form of currency, as they say in the ad business, a generally accepted metric that the entire industry can use to better understand what's going on. The key here, I think, is not just knowing what your stuff is doing, but what everybody else's stuff is doing by comparison, right? And that's where it gets really interesting to me in terms of what's working on what platforms, what lessons can a company take out of that. Like we're doing great on Samsung TV Plus, but we're not doing great on Roku. Well, what is that about? Right? I mean, those kinds of things get really fascinating. Like what's the competition? How are we being taken care of there? What do we need to fix? I guess that's the really crucial long-term performance question for all these. Yeah.
Absolutely. Because look, I mean, this is so new, right? Just in the last few years, it's like everyone get your app onto these services. Some of them have been doing it longer than others, but really it was like our app in front of the audience, right? We need to get an app on each of these key devices in each of the key markets. And it's like, okay, great. Now what do we do? And this is where you can see different levels of sophistication amongst different customers. And they've got the ability, some customers have got partner marketing teams working with every single individual OEM to ensure that their stuff is going to be more prominent than their competitors. And clients who use Looper Insights now are able for the first time to see not just where their placements are, but where their competitors are. And they're like, hang on, this OEM, I won't name any names, how come my competitor's getting this dedicated rail? You told me that wasn't available, but I can see that it is. I want to get some of that as well. So that's those types of shining a light on these user interfaces, because you get very limited data from these partners, right? If you do a paid campaign, you get some data, that's great. But outside of that, the rest of the UI, most of the UIs, let's face it, are not paid for directly, right? You don't directly go and buy all of those spots. Most of it is actually earned media. So unless you have an understanding of all of that earned media and the value of that earned media, then it's really difficult to be able to compare apples with apples.
Right. I think that's an interesting next step beyond that's really important, as you say, because there is so much stuff. There are, the New York Times has a shows to watch kind of thing every week, and who's on that list and what are they talking about? And that's really important as a weather vane for a set of folks. But there's a whole bunch of other places that are doing that too. And that's not paid for, but it certainly can be impactful and helps provide a fuller context, right, to understand why this movie's doing well and that TV show's not doing so well, things like that, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is we've looked at, so we started off with this share of voice metrics, then we gave those metrics a weighting. We wanted to help clients understand if I've got the super premium true above the fold shelf space, that's worth a lot more than 3 or 4 pages down. It's like no one goes to, well, maybe some people go to page 3 on a Google search, probably less and less now with the AIs. You know,
Yeah, I would
someone
say it's a
looking,
short list these days, I'm guessing, but yeah. Hmm.
right, who's scrolling down to these other pages? And it's like that with the connected TV environment. I mean, a lot of people are obviously surfing through this top level UI, looking at content. Okay, the apps are all got their placements and they're reasonably static. If I'm a subscriber, I'll see those apps in a similar place. It's the content that's promoting those apps that is moving around all the time. And that's the key piece that clients need to get a handle on. So by weighting this media placement value, we were able to see that, okay, that is actually really more, that's a lot more helpful for clients to be able to then focus on what are the key parts of the user interface that's going to drive performance. So from there, we then decided, okay, well, there's a way that we could help evolve that, right? There is different costs of buying placement in different markets and on different devices. And so by gathering up some rate cards, by doing our own first party research into what the local CPMs are, those cost per thousands actually are, we're able to then give those a dollar value. So we call that dollar MPV, not very original, but it's a way for us to start going, okay, well, look, Prime Video generated $100 million worth of earned media placement in the US last month. I mean, wow. And then it's like, well, is that good or is that bad? Like, how does that look? And so we've started producing some reports, Streamer of the Month, for example, which then helps people understand, well, how are we ranking? And that's looking at all the earned media, not just the paid placements, but paid editorial and algorithmic media to start stack ranking who's getting the most value across all of these connected TV environments.
In your May streamer of the month for the United States, I think you have one in the UK as well, I noticed. You had some, I thought they were slightly surprising results that Apple's sports initiatives, and only has two, Major League Soccer, which is the big one, and then Friday Night Baseball in May, hit it out of the park, so to speak, to use the baseball term. And, I was a little surprised because I love me some Apple TV, got some great science fiction on there, and the sports stuff I like. I know people in the UK and other parts of the world may be a little disdainful of the MLS, but it's come a long way and it's pretty fun to watch. But they did really well. And what do we make of that? Is it just that it's their month and they're rolling, or is this something bigger going on at Apple TV Plus that we didn't know about?
Well, I think there's a real benefit to having your own hardware.
Oh,
If you've
yeah.
got your own hardware,
It's
that
worked out
really,
okay for a $3 trillion Apple company.
that's right. And if you've got your own hardware, you've got your own real estate that you own and that you can manage and you can promote on. And so we consistently see those who have their own hardware. If we talk about, Roku channel, or we talk about Apple TV Plus or Prime Video, they're able to really push their properties on their devices. So that's definitely giving a really good baseline. But also they've been really aggressive in terms of promoting those shows, those programs across third-party devices as well. So they've done a fantastic job recently of promoting those. And I think we saw across those two titles, two programs, over $11 million worth of dollar MPV. So that's
Right,
pretty
right.
impressive.
That's pretty good. Yeah. It, again, $3 trillion company, you can make some things happen, even if people don't understand what Apple's doing, but they make some great stuff. So there's no doubt about that. Any previews you can give? Because I'm guessing June, with the holiday here in the United States, the June report must be coming out very soon. Any previews can you give us? Anything notable that's coming down the pike with June?
Well, I'm not going to give any data just ahead of time, but I guess hopefully by the time this comes out, we'll be able to link it up. But certainly, I think another key trend that we're seeing is that free is, such a great price point. And a lot of the
Yes.
platforms, they are really pushing free. So obviously, fast is a big deal in the US, less so in other territories. But AVOD is really getting a lot of prominence. And it makes sense, right? If you can see Roku channel, you can see Tubi, you can see Pluto. They're getting a lot of prominence in terms of actual real estate. Some of them are getting more of the high value prominence. You'll see that in the report with Roku channel consistently get some really high prominence. And whereas others might be getting a big bulk of prominence, but not necessarily always at the top because you got to buy it. If you want to be at the top, you got to pay
Right.
the big bucks.
Right. But that is a business I mean, free is a great price. We all love free, but free comes with a price too, amusingly. So that's interesting to think about how media companies will take that and figure out what to do with their library content, right? That's the real opportunity here is how do I pick out the winners in my library and spotlight those to help drive stuff and then perhaps get the follow-on interest in the sequel or the second season or whatever of something, correct?
That's right. Absolutely. And look, we've got clients going, we've just seen a massive spike in this title's viewership. Like, why? What was that? And that's what we're picking up is we're seeing things and we're going, wow, look at this promotion that you've just got that this platform has just decided to pick up and run with. And a lot of that is earned media, which is the best bang for buck that you can get, right? I haven't had to pay for it necessarily, but we're leveraging all of this free placement and that's driving viewership. So that's and engagement importantly, right? So a lot of it is we've got to get clients into our app. We want them to then spend as much time in the app and keep engaged. But if you're able to promote key titles at the top level UI or get them for free, then that's really going to help your retention as well.
Absolutely. Well, I think with this, we'll wrap it up. I'm David Bloom with Next TMT. I'm here with Lucas Bertrand, the CEO of Looper Insights. We'll be having Lucas back for more conversations, more research, more cool stuff. Thank you so much, Lucas. This has been great.
Wonderful. Wonderful to be here. Thanks very much, David.
Take care.
Cheers.